Welcome to Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority, the lively and engaging podcast for business professionals who've always believed they have a book in them. I'm your host, Gillian Whitney. Join me as I chat with authors and industry experts from all around the world to explore simple strategies to write, publish, and leverage your business book. Whether you're an entrepreneur, executive, or an employee, this podcast is for you. Woo-hoo-hoo, and we're live once again on another Tuesday, although I'm actually doing a previously recorded live, and I'm doing this on Sunday because Tuesday will be my birthday, and I wanted to be free to go to the beach and celebrate my birthday looking at the surf and walking in the water. So that's where I'll be on Tuesday, but I still wanted to do this live today. So this is what we're going to be talking about. Own Your Words, Lessons Learned from Taylor Swift. Now, I'm going to be in full disclosure. I am not a Swiftie. I have actually, if you ask me to name one Taylor Swift song, I couldn't name any of them. However, I do still respect her as a businesswoman. She's, really a force to be reckoned with. Everybody I know has been to her concerts, has her albums. She's made gazillions of dollars. She's in the spotlight all the time. And she is an incredible businesswoman. And I think that as Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. And so when you see stuff about Taylor Swift in the news, I have to read it. I have to figure out what's going on. And there was something very big going on this week. So I'm going to go ahead and get Bitmo Gillian in here with me today. And Taylor Swift had some really big news recently, just like 2 days ago. And she won back the rights to all of her songs, all of her material. She actually now is in charge of everything that she owns. But this was not an easy thing. This took years and years of work and lots of money. But it made her so happy. And she feels so victorious to finally be in charge of her own intellectual property, IP, intellectual property. And this is such an important thing for us as business professionals, as we're building our brand, as we're growing our business. We want to be in charge of our intellectual property. And so as I was reading this article, it was actually in Entrepreneur magazine about Taylor Swift and about getting the rights to her music catalog back, I started thinking about how does this apply to authors? And then I just decided I'd roll with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get stuck right in to what are the lessons that I learned from what Taylor Swift went through. So as I said before, she was in the news on Friday, which was Friday, May the 30th. And big news on her website, she has penned a letter that just said how happy she is. This has been a dream of hers to win back her rights of all her music. And, basically her rights got sold through contracts. They got sold to other people, and she's been in the courts and fighting with it. And one part of the thing that she had to do to win back her rights was start having claims of ownership by re-recording albums. She's been re-recording albums. She did her whole tour. Her last tour was helping her get the money, big bucks to do this. But now she has succeeded. Total victory. And she says, all of the music I've ever made now belongs to me. And what a sweet, sweet song that is. So yay for Taylor Swift. And how does this affect us as authors? So the takeaway that I got from this was, well, why would you ever want to be in a position where you have to buy back the rights to your own creative work? And I thought about that and I thought, Wow, that is a huge thing. And how does this actually apply to authors? So I'm going to walk you through it. So the first thing is, if you go the traditional publishing route, which is what pretty much everybody always dreams of. It's like, oh, I'm going to have an idea for this book and then I'm going to sell it to Penguin or Harper Press or, all the different presses. They're going to pick it up, they're going to give me an advance and I write my book and, then they'll take care of everything for me. And that's what most of us think when we want to get that book deal one day. But I have actually talked to other people. I don't know actually any authors who have that gigantic book deal. So I have to kind of bring it down to my world. And I know of people who have worked with traditional publishers who maybe some were pay to play, that they had to pay money in order to get their book published. I don't know a lot of people that actually got picked up as, getting the advance and all that sort of thing. And what they found is the trade-off, first of all, paying a lot of money, but the more important thing is that the publisher has all the control. And some of the things that you think as an author, it's like, oh, I don't want to have to bother with the ISBN. Let the publisher get the ISBN. But then the publisher owns your ISBN. You can't do anything with that book. If you later even try and get your rights back, you are now going to have to get your own ISBN. That ISBN is owned by whoever purchases it. So if it is the publisher, then they own the ISBN for your book. And that's really important. Another thing is the design and the production. I've read articles where people have said, they wanted a particular cover and the publisher says, we got it. Our team is we know what works. And it could be a cover you don't like at all. And you might not have any say in that. You might not have any say in the drawings. Maybe you have some drawings inside of the book or the fonts and all the different things that can make up the book. The design of the book, that's up to the publisher. So you might have some input, but you don't necessarily have that control. And same with the publication. If the publisher decides that they're going to do a paperback and an ebook, maybe a hardback even, and you say, well, hey, how about an audiobook? Well, they might not want to do an audiobook, and you might not have the rights to do the audiobook on your own. And then, of course, with regards to the marketing and the sales, well, publishers often look to the author to do the marketing, but also too, they can stop marketing your book and then it would be up to you to do it. They might say, okay, you know what? We're not even doing a book tour for you. And you're just like, okay, I guess I got to do it on my own. So there's a lot of things that we give up as authors when we go the traditional publishing route, which is why, you won't be surprised, I advocate for self-publishing, because when you are a self-published author, you have complete ownership and control. There's no contracts because it's you. And to be honest with you, if you ever have any kind of book deal and you have to sign a contract, get lawyers, because you don't know all the different clauses that can be in a contract. I can't advise you because I'm not a lawyer, but I know that if I was going to be doing a book contract, I would want to get a lawyer to make sure that somehow I get to have as many rights as possible. But when you are self-publishing, you don't even have to worry about contracts because it's all on you. You get to make all of the decisions. So what kind of decisions do you get to make when you're self-publishing a book? You have total creative freedom, which means you can design the cover. Whether you like the cover or you don't like the cover, it's still up to you. You can design the cover. You can do it yourself or you can outsource. And there's so many different places that you can go to and have people make covers for you. And a lot of these places that make covers, they're working for you. So you pay them, and most of them are like unlimited updates. So you give them an idea of what you want for a cover, and they produce it for you and you're like, I don't like the way that you did this. Can you do this? Can you add this? Can you add some flames or this or that? Or, I want sparkles on my cover. Whatever you want, you're in charge. And again, read the fine print if you're outsourcing your cover to find out, well, what are your rights with that cover for other things? Can you still do, can you use the same cover for your ebook as opposed to your paperback? What if you do a audiobook? Because that's going to be a totally different size. Can you use it in your marketing? So you want to make sure that you have rights for that as well. But just knowing that you are in charge of your cover, you're in charge of your title. You get to choose what your title's going to be. You get to choose the price, and you can make your book as expensive or as inexpensive as you choose. So that's nice to know. And then what about revisions and updates? Well, when it's your book, you can say, you know what? A lot has changed since I wrote this book. I want to now do a second edition. And you can do a second edition. Or maybe you decide I want to do a whole other language and I want to have my book in Spanish or French or whatever. So just know that you get to do that and you get to have all that creative control. Whereas if you were with a traditional publisher, you might say, oh my goodness, so much has changed. I need to update this book. It's out of date. The publisher might say, you know what? We're happy. We've moved on. And there's nothing you can do. So that's just something to be aware of. In terms of self-publishing, you also have the financial benefits, which means that you are 100% in charge of getting your royalties and setting your book up on whatever platforms you want. So you can just say, for instance, stay with Amazon, and you have Amazon and you can get in and you can see how you're doing, and you can decide, I want to do my book in just my own country, or I want to do my book in other places all around the world. So you can globally distribute your book wherever you want. You can decide to go wide and say, okay, I'm not just going to do Amazon. I want to do Barnes and Noble online. I want to get into, Libby and Overdrive and all these different places. I want to be in Apple Books, all the different places. Maybe you want to go into bookstores. You can go as much as you want, and you get to set the price and you get to set the royalties. And the amazing thing is that there is no middleman or middlewoman who is only cutting you a check when that's what your contract is. So I know a few people who have gone with a publisher, and they have no idea how much money they're making. They have no idea of their book sales. Maybe just once a quarter or once, every 6 months, they get a check or don't get a check from the publisher that says, you sold this many books and here's your cut and here's our cut and yada, yada, yada. So that's something to think about, that when you self-publish, you are always going to know exactly how your book is doing. And if you say, you know what, I need to sell more books. Maybe my book was too expensive. I kind of, at the beginning, I thought, oh, I'll just make it, $20, $19.99. But now I'm thinking maybe my book would be better served in the $9.99. You can absolutely drop that price yourself. Whereas with a traditional publisher, that might not happen. Or your book could actually be, $19.99, and the publisher decides they're going to put it on sale. And you're like, wait a minute, I don't want my book to be that price. You're not in control. So that's important. And knowing that you can always get into all your different dashboards and get all your payments, 100% financial benefit of being in control. So let's talk about the real world impact with regards to Taylor Swift. So I think I said this at the beginning, that she actually had to go and spend years re-recording her albums to actually this was part of what she did to get control. So she didn't just go to court. She had to do other things. And so, you think about that as a writer. Imagine having to rewrite your books. It'd be like, oh my gosh. So, I got to give her credit. That had to be really hard to re-record all your albums again. but I guess she had to put it on her own label. I don't know all the details, but it sounds like a lot of work and it sounds like a nightmare. Plus, also, too, she paid a lot of money. She paid apparently $360 million to get her rights back. So that's what she had to pay to get the ownership. So who knows what she paid in terms of lawyers and court fees and everything like that. 360 million was apparently the payout that she had to give to the company that owned their rights so that they give them back to her. So, and she's not the first one. It's like, wasn't it years ago that the Beatles were owned by Michael Jackson? And I remember Paul McCartney, basically taking him to court and trying to get the rights back. So this is something that happens, is that if somebody owns your rights, then they can also sell your rights to somebody else. So a lot of stuff can go on. So that was the impact for Taylor Swift. A lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of time, and I'm sure a lot of frustration and heartbreak. And if you go to her website and you read the note that she penned, she said so many times she thought she was close to a deal, that she was close to getting her rights back, only to have it fly away. And yet she had to keep on, keep on, keep on. So my heart goes out to her. It must have been a horrible thing to go through, but I do admire her tenacity to keep going no matter what. So what's the real world impact for authors? So just know when you're going through a traditional publisher, the publisher has control and they can do a lot of different things. Here's a story I just read about in the news about a woman who wrote a book. It's called Sparrow and Vine, and her name is Sophie Lark. And she was all set to publish her book. They had her book out to advanced readers, and the advanced readers just trashed it. They just said they didn't like what her book was about. They didn't like that it talked about Elon Musk, and she talked about how she had learned some things listening to Elon Musk. And so basically the current climate didn't like her book. And so the publisher said, well, you got to pull it out. And she was just like, well, I don't want to pull it out. So they canceled her book. And so at this point, she's now kind of reviewing her options. Apparently, she has actually still got the rights to her book. Probably going to be very difficult for her to get another publisher. She's probably going to have to go the self-publishing route. And right now, she's just like totally put the project on hold. So can you imagine the heart and soul of, working so hard to write your book? It's out to the advanced readers. And then your publisher just goes, I think we'll pass. It would be heartbreaking. And there's also stories of people who are with publishing companies, especially some of the pay-to-play ones, and they've got their manuscript in, they've written everything, they're good to go, they've paid their money, and then the company just goes broke. They go out of business, and the people are like, wait a minute, I paid all this money. And boom, nothing they can do. So there's so many different things that can happen in that 11th hour. And the publisher, again, has the ability to just kind of pull the plug, hold the phone, whatever. So truly, authors must beware of what can happen with their book. So I'm just going to talk from my perspective. I feel I've had a success story in that I have 5 books out. My books are up on Amazon, and I'm happy because anybody can get my books. I can change the price at a given moment. I can, right now, all of my books are paperback and ebook, but I'm actually thinking maybe I might want to take some of these books and turn them into audiobooks. I have the right to do that because I have full and complete creative control on my books. I can make them any price. And tomorrow, if I decide I want to update them, I can update them. If I decide I want to pull my books, I can pull my books. So again, that is my real world impact. I have felt very empowered by being a self-publishing author. So the final takeaway is most of us are not Taylor Swift in terms of we don't have the deep pockets that it would take to ever have to fight and get our rights back. And so the takeaway really is don't give up your rights in the first place. It's like do what you can to get your book into the world via self-publishing, because then that way you own your words. And I really caution people to choose wisely, to make sure that you think everything through before you decide to go and use a traditional publisher versus doing it on your own, because it just makes so much sense to own your intellectual property. Because also, too, think beyond the book. What if you made a book and then you decided, you know what? I think I want to turn this into a workshop and I want to use the same title. Maybe you decide that you want to go and make an online course. I don't know. What if you decide you want to have products that go with your book? You own everything. So always think beyond the book. What if somebody decided to pick your book up as like, wow, this would actually make a really good movie. I'd like to turn this into a movie. You will be in position to say yay or nay on that. And just think down the road how great that can be for you. So I want to end by telling you guys a little story that I recently came across. And it was about a gentleman, we'll call him Jacob, and he was a dedicated writer. He would go and he was always, kind of sitting in his house, writing, always writing, uh, typing away, always got his pen and paper and ready to go. And he had so many great ideas for books, and he kept sending his books off to publishers, and they just rejected him every time. He could not get his book published. And yet he really knew he was a great writer. It was just like, how do I get a break for this? And so one day he bumped into a friend walking down the street, and they decided, friend from college, they decided they'd go catch up, have a cup of coffee. And his friend had become a literary agent. And so Jacob said to him, well, I wonder if you could get my stuff published. And he says, well, I'm not really that kind of a literary agent. What I like to do is I like to match up writers as ghost writers to work with my clients to help them with their business. And so Jacob said, oh, okay, how would that work? And so he says, well, I'll tell you, I have a lot of people that need books written, but they aren't very good writers. So if you could write for them, that would be awesome. So he said, okay, how would that work? And so he says, well, I pay you money to write the books, and then you don't get your name, you don't get anything about that book, but that book, I'll give you a check in advance for that book. And then, you don't get any royalties or anything, but you will get money. So Jacob said, yeah, okay, I'll do this. And he started doing this, and he started writing, and he was writing really, really good books for people. And they were going out and becoming bestsellers. And then one day, Jacob had counted, I've written 10 books now. And he happened to be walking past a bookstore, and he went in and he looked around, and he saw all of his books were bestsellers. But guess what? None of them had his name on it. None of them had his name. And in one of the bookstores, he actually saw one of the authors doing a book signing, and he was talking about his process for writing. And this just made Jacob crazy, because he went, that guy didn't write a word. He didn't write a single word. He didn't even give me any information. I wrote everything. And so Jacob went home that day, got out his computer, and started typing his words, his truth, his thoughts. And he realized he had a great book in him. And so again, he figured after all this, now he'd be ready to go to the publishers. And once again, the publishers were rejecting him. So Jacob decided, I'm just going to self-publish. So he self-published his book. And guess what? It didn't become a bestseller, but it got some really great reviews. And one of the reviews said, "This book changed my life." And that's when Jacob realized that it's always about your words and your effect and what they can do. And he felt wonderful that he knew that that book had his name and his words, and that at least that one book went out into the universe with his thumbprint on it. And so essentially, owning your words is the best reward that you ever can have. So anyways, I hope that you'll enjoy today's live. I hope that you'll take this all. I can't take any questions because we're not live and it's previously recorded. But anyways, I thank you for your attention today. I thank you for being here. And I hope I've just given you something to think about. And hooray for Taylor Swift for doing what she did. Okay, we'll see y'all next week, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be grateful if you could leave us a review. It helps other aspiring authors discover our podcast. To learn more about writing, publishing, and leveraging your business book, visit my website at easypeasybooks.com.